So the film Rogue Warrior kind of originated quite a while ago, actually. I wrote a film called Planet Crash, and it was, I guess it was about two people in a war who crashed on a planet, and on opposing sides, of course, and they had to work together to get off the planet. So it was kind of an enemy mine type thing. But a lot of the characters in that story were these robot type worshipping of human type creatures, and so that was the original script, and I just started reworking it. I mean, there's nothing left of the original script whatsoever, except maybe a notion of, sex robots turned into soldiers. After I started working with Tracy, I could see the risks she was willing to take. I worked with her on At the Edge of Time, and she would happily climb up on the rooftop of a building and do a shot or whatever. So I realized that this might be a co-conspirator in trying to pull off a film that was maybe a little ambitious at the time.
Freaking told him! I freaking told him!
Told him what?
What we did to his daughter. It was obscene.
Robots are changing protocols.
The Scourge.
They've declared martial law, downloading memories with big brain suckers.
The AI Scourge has been planning our genocide. We have maybe less than a month.
There's a planet near the galactic core called Abyss. They knocked down the central brain unit with Hawking radiation bombs. It's like a big off switch.
Can't go running all over the galaxy looking for some mythical fixable.
A clever girl would steal one of Ralston's shuttles to see if there's any bombs left on Abyss.
Do you have a gun? No.
Very bad.
Let's play, boys.
Are you the one?
Hey, stop it! You're hurting him!
Did you take down the walls?
I don't care what you do, just go!
Leave the core. Come to me.
I'm hearing it. Too, Sienna. It's the Scourge.
Might be the only friend I have, Hoagland.
Something big opening a wormhole.
Oh my god.
It's over there. Was that for the fly you were hitting? Sorry. Okay. Let's just pick up line. It's funny you should do that. Still rolling, guys. Still rolling. Okay. I just wanted this line again. Sienna, I'm sorry. It's what happened, the whole brain injury thing. Can you do a fake slap on him?
Yeah, when?
It all takes time. Stop it.
Okay.
And then he goes, your eyes, because you change folks.
So stop choking him at that point and slap him?
Yeah. Still rolling, guys. Still rolling.
Sorry. Okay. Alright.
Here we go. And you got something to lay on?
No, I just got a cramp. I'm good.
That's what I had too.
Do you want me to jump back in?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And action.
Sorry.
Wanted a clean line, right?
Yeah, this could be dammy.
Okay.
I had like hair
That's
in my
fine.
mouth, and I was like, wait.
If you're going north, I'm gonna go with you.
I'm going solo.
Great, we can go solo together.
No.
You sure?
Positive.
Please?
Yep.
Cut. Amazing.
You don't. Na.
Again?
Okay.
All right, I get my truth. What I want to know is... Fine. What I want to know is...
Yes.
What did you find in that hollow thing?
In the memorial?
The time capsule.
I made a hollow recording. Right. Look, I know all about your little sex addiction, Dad, so spit it out.
That is none of your business.
It takes time.
Stop!
Sorry, I looked right at Lens.
It was a total bitch slap because I slipped off your sunscreen.
You okay?
It's fine.
Then come down. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Start shaking. Action.
We're away.
The film is truly unique. You know, it's. I was trying to distance myself from everything I'd done in the past as much as possible and try to focus on character. So the film really is about character. It's not about, you know, how many explosions you have per hour. It was all about the soul of a person and their journey and what they become, and it was all about trying to understand a new form of humanity, I guess, within the film. And I get that's kind of the message of it too. You know? So I wanted to be a character study film. And then, you know, like Ex Machina came out and it's like, wow, that's a little bit similar to what we're doing, but not quite. So I started wanting to, you know, change things a couple of places here and there. And you know, we didn't want to be similar to anyone. So we were shooting new scenes and constantly punishing ourselves and going out and doing this and doing that. And in the end, we got quite a unique piece of art.
I'd worked with Neil Johnson before. We worked in a couple of films. He had me do voiceover roles. And then we did another film, and then we were gonna make a film where I was the lead. And I was super excited because it was gonna have to do with robotics, which I love robots, and science fiction and out in the desert. And out in the desert is so much fun. I mean, just shooting this stuff is amazing because you actually feel like you're in another world. And Neil, in his method, he's a true actor's director. He's a collaborator. He takes feedback and lets you have your own ideas and help develop your own characters. And you know, that's something that great directors do. And I've had that experience before, but never to this degree, and never to the point where it was like so it was difficult, but it was easy. He makes it easy because he's working with you and you're bringing these characters to life. He makes it difficult because then those lives have these extreme journeys.
The fact that I was working with Tracy Birdsall, this actress who, I guess she's known for all sorts of films and TV shows and stuff. But the one thing I saw inside her was this spirit to strive for greatness. And it's actually very rare in actors. There's a lot of actors who need to be acting for therapy reasons or just have this need to you know, be somebody else. But a person like Tracy, she has those needs to create a character, but beyond that, she likes to push herself mentally and challenge herself mentally. I guess when you're a director and you discover this, then you realize you have gold in your hands, because it's not often you find an actor like that in the world. I mean, I've worked with, I'd say, hundreds of actors by now, because I've done a lot of movies. And, you know, some actors are truly amazing. And I mean, I've worked with some really, really incredible actors and some very famous actors. And occasionally you might work with an actor who doesn't give their A game or their B game. And I mean, a good example, you'd go on set and you'd see these actors in between takes just, you know, texting their friends or doing a selfie or something. And the good professional actors that you work with, they're always preparing themselves mentally, and they don't necessarily want to be hanging out and being, you know, social on set. They want to be off preparing their brains for the character, and that's the sign of a good actor, in my opinion. And I think she put in like 3 months of mental prep and going through the script almost on a daily basis and rehearsing. When you see an actor doing that, you realize this is a seriously committed actor. And this is somebody who should be on the big screen in a lead role. I think that's the way the whole project came together. Was I saw that she was available and willing to be punished by me.
He's a punishing director, I mean, but he gets what he wants in the end, and he gets it by pushing you to your absolute furthest degree and making you do things that you didn't think you could physically, mentally, and emotionally do. And that's really exciting, because us as actors, we're always working on being the best us that we can be, and always working on pushing ourselves even further and being challenged. Well, this kind of upped the ante by like 20%. I mean, it was amazing.
Kind of said fuck you to a lot of the you know, people out there who demand I do a certain type of movie. You know, we got to sell so many units and hit these targets, and that's the pressure you have as a you know, low-level B or C movie or D movie director like myself. You've got to hit certain targets just to get a sale. and you're not going to have a great marketing campaign behind you apart from a nice poster and maybe an overly hyped trailer. So with this movie, we deliberately invested our time in character, and I mean, this was a proper collaboration between director and actor. We would just constantly churn ideas over, and the original film was shot, I think, January of 2015 we started shooting, but the last shot of the film was mid-July 2016, where we had to do some more character stuff, and it's a strange way to do a movie. I don't think I'll ever do it this way again, but we just kept building upon the character and changing ideas, and I mean, I probably threw out at least 1 hour's worth of footage in the film. But that was the luxury I had, where you have a true collaborator like Tracy, you can actually take a risk and go down a path and explore this way and explore that way and make her climb a mountain and do some shots and then throw those shots away because it just doesn't, flow in the whole story.
Yes, it's science fiction genre, but even more so than that. I mean, it's comedy, it's drama, it's the deepest characters that we've ever played. I mean, so it's kind of interesting because it's an all-encompassing film and it's character-driven, but yet it's science fiction. It's new technology that could at some point in time in the future become real. I mean, I watch Star Trek and I watch Star Wars, and a lot of those things, you look at some of the gadgets and things, and we're so far past that now. So it's exciting to see that, the new and emerging things, and to think of what if. What if this could be, and what if that could be, and to me, I find that to be one of the most exciting things.
It got so ridiculous at some point because I punished her so badly. You see there's nothing around for like 50 miles in every direction. And that's really where we were. We were right out in the middle of nowhere, and it was like 120 degree heat, 125 degrees sometimes. I mean, I remember it got down to 105 once. We were very happy. That's Fahrenheit. Tracy was nearly passing out a few times. Because it was unbearable, and I'd make her climb a mountain or do a fight sequence in the middle. We try to shoot in the afternoon when it went down to 115 degrees, but it was always hot and always punishing.
So we're out in the heat, and it's like 110 degrees, and you're getting dropped off by a truck because they're doing a helicopter shot, they're doing an aerial. So you get dropped off, and literally I would take half a bag of ice and just be sticking it down my costume everywhere because you can hardly breathe when everybody's there and you just step out of the air-conditioned truck. And then you kind of feel the drone, and all you can see is the heat waves and the sand, and then you're completely in character because you're completely exhausted and you're burning up. And I'm walking across the desert, and at times, like, I can't see the crew and I can't see the people, and I start to get a little foggy-headed. But since I have so much faith, I trust these people. It's like I know they're not going to leave me out there to die. So I just keep walking, and then you get back to the truck and you just take water and you just pour it all over yourself because you're dying. You're absolutely dying. And then one of the pickup shot days, one of the most recent ones, I was so hot and I'd run out of water, and I was kind of moving over to the truck so I can get in with the air conditioning on, but I thought I was going to pass out. And so just as I get the door propped open and I get my body up against the truck, and I couldn't get in the truck. And so I thought, okay, what am I gonna do? And then a wind gust throws the door closed right on my back. I'm like, okay, another war wound for my book.
This robot just passing overhead, so give yourself about 5 seconds.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
right.
I'll sit in.
And action.
Gross. I just inhaled a fly. So gross.
What did you add?
And we got all that on video and tape.
No.
I killed one in my nose yesterday.
Still rolling?
Energy, serious.
Are you there? Good, let's go again. When you do too late, it's almost a deeper voice. Too late. Too late.
Okay, got it.
It's like, oh, it's in my butt already, basically. That's basically what it is. And it changes the, it's too late.
Do you really want me to growl it like too late?
He's like, yeah.
Yeah. It will be interesting. It might get a laugh. It'll, yeah, it's too late.
Too late. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Okay.
All right.
And then one of my favorite things is when we did additional scenes, which we did a ton of additional scenes shooting. I think like 6 months. It would be like, okay, now I need this shot, now I need that shot, because he looks at the whole flow of the overall project. He's a visionary, and he would see what it was going to be, and he'd already know it before he shot it. And he's very into his lenses, and my favorite lens had come out, and I'd get all excited because I knew it was going to look amazing, and we want to look amazing.
It wasn't reshoots as much as shooting extra footage, but we would constantly be shooting in the height of summertime, which was really a curse. And I did that once before on Battle Space, and I remember the actors don't like me so much. You know, some actors out there would probably like to have me killed, I'm sure. But, you know, that's the process you go through to get a film made and do your very best. And I mean, I have to avoid the actors who are lazy. You know, you get a lot of famous actors around you, but a lot of famous actors can't be physical, can't push themselves. They want to take a nice ride on a film set and just sit in luxury and just, you know, say a few lines and think they're golden. You know, I can't work with those actors because they're not going to give 100%. You know, I need an actor who's hungry, who wants to give their soul for the role. Because I mean, I'm giving my soul, I'm giving everything I have physically. I couldn't always get my DP when we had to shoot extra scenes, and I was shooting a lot of the stuff myself. And I mean, I had no choice. It was like, you know, it was like a workout for me. So I was constantly just, you know, lobbing out to the desert, driving 5 hours for one shot. It literally got down to that sort of thing because, you know, I wanted to make the film look as visually interesting as possible.
It was a gut-wrenching journey, that's for sure. You know, you're sweating, your heart's pounding, you're being belted by sand and wind and everything. We have all of the elements against you. And when the wind would start howling and we're out in the desert and it's like getting in my ears and getting in my nose and my mouth and my eyes, and Neil's really excited, the director's really excited because it's real and because it puts you into that element, but at the same time you're still dealing with it. And there were a few times where it's like, no, that wasn't what you weren't supposed to fall there, you're supposed to fall later. It was like, yeah, but doing what I was doing, I really fell. I mean, when you look at the script, you're doing, the character's doing all of these things, but then you're doing them in these big, bulky, heeled boots and, you know, in costume and stuff like that. And, you know, you do fall, and then you do keep falling, and then you do injure yourself.
It was so much fun.
We crashed the helicopter too.
And we crashed the helicopter. And that time when I rolled down, the sand was so soft that I screamed, and I got a mouthful of sand.
And you hurt your tailbone.
The tailbone was already hurt, my knee was already hurt, and I twisted my ankle the other day. Besides that, I'm fine. I have a few bruises. I'll be fine by tomorrow.
Nice sunset.
And I injured myself, I'd say, a good couple of 100 times. I mean, I was pretty much covered in bruises. You know, when you're sliding down the walls and you can stucco down your shirt and everything's scraping you, and Neil's like, oh, that looks great, I could see where you're scraped. So it made it very, very real though, because you're really feeling that pain. You're really, that limp when you hurt your leg from falling off the speeder bike, you know, and that becomes, you know, that character's been battered and bruised, and that becomes part of what you're living, and it just makes it also more real. And in the locations that we shot in and things like that, I mean, you just get there and they're so inspiring, and it's getting your soul, you know, make your heart pound, and all these things going on, and explosions and people and crew, and it was extremely exhilarating, to say the least. What was nice was the actors were so good, and everybody brought their A game, and I think that's one of the reasons why there were additional scenes and things too, is because people brought so much to the table, and then it's like, okay, now we need to work with this. And he did a complete rewrite once we did casting, and it was brilliant to bring out the best of what each of those actors had to offer, and to bring out their strengths and to bring out their character and everything, so that it wasn't just a stereotypical character being played by this person.
The great thing about finding good actors, and I mean, we put a lot of effort into the casting of this movie, and it was very pleasant for me to you know, say that every single actor in this film was perfect. I was extremely pleased to know that every single actor we had in this movie was, you know, apart from the fact they're, you know, famous and well trained and everything else, they all gave 100%. And you can see that, you know, it does show in some of the scenes. You know, you'll see Tracy and William Kircher and Stephen Manley as well as in that. There was a great energy always in that room.
So one of the interesting things about preparing for this character was that she's so multidimensional. I mean, you can talk about a schizophrenic if you want, how you have a couple of different personalities going on, but in her journey, she starts out and you know she has no memory. She only goes back 7 years from an accident. So she starts out, and that's her idea of everything. And then she has some self-discovery of who she is, and then she has some self-discovery of what she is, and then she has some self-discovery of what else has been added into her. And then her boyfriend dies, and all these things happen, and so she has so many different emotional places that she goes to, that then there's this time where it's almost a breakdown and an overload, and then she's hearing voices in her head at the same time. So when I prepared for this character, I had to color code everything. What does she know? Does she know who she is? Does she know what she is? Basically, I had to color code it, and then before we'd shoot those scenes, I had to put myself into that place. And sometimes it was a little bit like being in a box, so it got a little frustrating because here I am working opposite, William Kircher, and I have all these great things that I would do if it was just a scene and she was a single-dimensional character. But because of all the things that I knew and because of all the things that were going on, I had to hold all that back, and it became very, very interesting to see, because when you're living a character and you only know what they know at that point and you only feel what they know at that point, and then although it's very freeing, it also can be very limiting, because your first job when you're making a film is to make it where the character, where you're going on her journey too, where you're living it with her too. And so I would say that was a really interesting thing that I hadn't experienced before, that I experienced for the first time in this film.
It's very old, it's very dangerous. We stay here and we fight.
Bows and arrows against the lightning?
It's not what you got, it's how you use it.
That's what she said, Doctor.
The doctor is in.
Go into his head, and then that turns into a planet.
Suddenly they're standing on his head.
Scene 11, Fujifilm, take 2.
We work very hard on the relationships of everybody. I like the fact that all these actors would just kind of circle around Tracy, but every time she had interaction with different actors, it gave you something new for the characters. I mean, you see it with Marilyn Gigliotti and her and Daz, and her and Tim, and then her and Ashley. There was always a dynamic going on. The relationships between the Doctor and Ralston, for example, is very specific. But then the Doctor's relationship to Sienna is very specific. Sienna's relationship to Ralston is very specific as well, and then how she then relates to Blister, who relates to Ralston, and then Blister relates to the Rihanna, the sex machine, who she really isn't, a robot. If you look at it, she's really got a great little journey in her character as well. It's quite interesting. You'll see different facets come out, and this is always the strength of character, and even Sienna's relationship with Skullcrusher. You can see how it's almost a little awkward in ways, because he knows what she is, but she doesn't see it. She just sees it, oh, it's my boyfriend. And then his death is what spurns her on to becoming what she is, and then her discovery through Blister of who she is, inside herself. Then she has to try to recreate herself. Then she dies and she rebirths at a point, and she's trying to build a new identity. And that's why she says at the end of the film, I am no one, I'm nothing, because she's in the process of rebuilding the character into something new and special. But even the fact that she states that shows that she's, like a good actor should do, is wiped off any sense of who that person is, and she's trying to build a new personality within the frame of the body.
137 Biotic, take 3.
Be looking at the ceiling, looking everywhere, and then you'll look across to me and scream. It's the most horrifying thing you've ever seen.
Is she doing the breathing as well?
Yes.
Perfect.
Here we go. And action, looking around. Good, let's do another one. Even stronger. That was about a 2, I want a 7.
God.
Here we go.
I don't even know what you're going for.
Yes, you know what we're going for. Here we go. And action. Looking around. It's even funny when you see we had Livy Stubenrach, who was the little girl from Frozen, who looked a lot like Sienna, and it kind of looked like how Tracy Bertha looked when she was young. So she was able to encapsulate this sense of life in her eyes. It's all about this big web where everyone's interconnected, and that was the pleasure in this film. Was really the stars of the film were the actors, not the visual effects. And yeah, they served the story, but we're trying to keep it away from the visual effects. And I think probably the most interesting relationship in the film, well, there's two really. One was with Jonas. How Tracy would relate to the character of Jonas, or the Scourge, as he starts out. He's there always in the back of her head, but in fact it's this ghost, it's a demon that's haunting her. It's something in there that connects her, and she doesn't know what it is until she realizes the nature of what Jonas is.
Shoot now or they won't be able to engage their countermeasures. My God! Sienna, you did it! Sienna!
There's 2 worlds left.
Good to see you.
Sorry. I know, so I did it. All the relationships were very real. All of the, we'll talk about Hoagland, the robot that you see in the shot. What was interesting was I had to develop Hoagland as a character in my mind because, of course, although he's physical, a lot of it would be done later on with CGI and things like that. And Neil actually put the robot in my office so that when I'm working, I could develop a character for that robot. I could develop his personality and who he was to me, because he had to be real to me, because if he's not real to me, he's not going to be real to you when you watch it. And so I had like this whole idea of what his personality was and what his voice sounded like and who he was, and I knew the journey that we were going to take together. And so to bring it to life, I had to create that inside of my mind. And so it was kind of funny because when we were shooting, different people would read the lines, and it was like, oh, no, that's not Hoagland, that's not Hoagland. So at parts of it, I had to memorize Hoagland's lines too, so that I could get the timing right, so I could play it in my mind so that it was real. Because if I didn't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it either.
The best relationship in the whole film was Hoagland and Sienna. Now, the interesting thing about that is he's a floating ball.
I'll just wait back here.
Good. Another one?
Oh God. I'll just wait back here. Oh God. I'll just wait back here.
Tony Gibbons did an amazing job bringing that character to life in the voice part of it. And their relationship is really interesting because in the beginning she pretty much pulls a gun on him and tells him to, to stay away from her in every sense. But by the end of the film, they have a real relationship and a real love for each other, and they're kind of buddies. It's a buddy film if you look at it. It becomes a buddy film. And that's what I like about the movie. Where it starts is not where it ends. There's a great symmetry in the film, but they start in one place and all the characters have evolved into a new place by the end of the movie. We also have really interesting actors like Aaron Jacques, who he had a very interesting childhood where he was always on television, growing up. And he stepped away from film for a few years, and then he came back as this bearded, long-haired character, which, we shot a lot of stuff with him, but it always gets cut down and cut down. But I like the fact that the film starts out with his wonderful face. You see this face that's seen a lot of life. He's quite young, but you could just tell that behind those eyes, he's seen a lot of life, and he's just being in the moment, which I think is always really nice for that. And he was actually nice enough to bring Moose, the dog, onto the set as well.
Moose! 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 Get out of the fucking shot, you dumbass dog.
And Moose was an untrained dog as far as being on a movie, but the dog was completely all over the film. We just couldn't help using him here and there because he was just so interesting. All those little tricks he was doing at the end of the movie was just him being him. We wasn't trained to do that, he just did it. So there's always a joy when you watch the film. There's life because you see people's faces, you see life, you see character, you see reality.
So I'm trying to figure out when I'm gonna start this, like, who can I compare my character to? Like, what is there in her that I can get from other characters? And one of the realizations that I came to is that she's very unique. She's, you know, she has parts of what you can see in other films and stuff in a character, but she's so unique in that all the things that she's going through, and that she's strong and she's physically fit and she's mentally strong, and she has these ideas, and just when I look at it, there wasn't anything that I could really compare her to. She's a new character out there, and that was exciting. But at the same time, you're kind of birthing something new, and so it's your job to sit down, you know, for months and months and months, and to create that character, and to decide how they walk and how they talk and what their quirks are and things like that. And then she changes along the way after her boyfriend dies. So she starts to take on certain characteristics of him, and then she starts to take on certain characteristics of other things that she is. And it was really interesting. In doing the film, because I believe in living my character, what's interesting too is all that becomes part of who you are, because our characters are, when we work that way, are our experiences. So they become our memories. And so we're experiencing it, but we're also kind of birthing it. We're also kind of becoming it. And it was a deep one. It was a lot to throw at the plate. It really was. You know,
I watched the film back, and it's like, wow, you can see how she's become something else by the end of the movie, and that's what makes me the happiest.
Because of the emotional journey that this was, it was emotionally demanding, physically demanding, everything demanding. Like, took everything that I had, definitely mentally demanding. Because of that, and because of everything that I put into it, when I see some of the finished work and some of the finished scenes, I can't even think about it. It makes me cry. And it's because of what we went through, and because of what I was experiencing at the time. God, I'm gonna have to watch this like 1,000 times before I can go to the theater. But I remember where she was, and in my mind, I was she. And so everything that I was feeling, I don't use replacement method. I use, like, you really put yourself in that spot, and it takes 1,000 hours. You don't want to know how to do it. But because of that, when I watch it, I feel her pain. Yeah. Can't even talk about it. I'm so sorry.
When you see a person on camera who looks stressed and dirty and sweaty and in the zone, she's really in the zone. I mean, she really was there, because I was pushing her so hard that, you know, yeah, the character was going through some heavy stuff, but I think she was going through maybe worse stuff sometimes because how much I pushed her, you know.
When I see her, I feel everything that she feels, because I put so much effort into getting into her soul and who she was and how that would make her feel, and the people around her, and letting people down, and then rising up to the top of it and coming up with a better idea. And so it's really funny when I watch it. It makes me cry, because humans don't go through this stuff. It's so much deeper than what anybody could imagine going through. Yeah. It's a great movie. But I feel so fortunate to have gotten to feel all of that. You know, it's like, it's what we strive for as actors, is to, you know, live these different things, and to live so many things in one movie. It's exhausting.
There's two themes in this movie. I mean, if you look at a lot of my movies, I'm really into going to outer space. Now, there's a reason behind that. You know, I guess as a kid, I was building spaceships as a child. I mean, I really was. I did build a couple of spaceships in my back garden and ran off on these adventures. So part of it is that, and I mean, I love the concept of just being able to go to another planet and exploring and having an adventure and then getting in your spaceship and flying away. I mean, that's a really great thing to do. I was growing up in the late 70s. I knew that a nuclear apocalypse was just around the corner at the time, or so we thought, or a great asteroid was going to smash into us. And the reality is, as far as humanity goes, is we are doomed. And when I say doomed, the odds are not in our favor that we're going to survive another 100,000 years. The reality is this Earth is so fragile. I mean, you look at it, we're sitting on this planet, and there's this atmosphere, which is just this gas, just kind of attracted to the planet, and we're floating in space. And at any point, a giant asteroid could smash into us and pretty much wipe out all of life. Yellowstone could blow up. That's a super volcano just under the ground. That could blow up and pretty much pollute the entire planet and cover the whole planet in a dark cloud of, volcanic ash, which would pretty much wipe out the majority of life on this planet. So something's going to happen sooner or later that's just going to take a major toll on humanity. And we have to be smart about this. We have to think, okay, this planet is great, but it's not going to be here forever. There's going to be a point where it's going to be unlivable. And that's why we have to get off the planet and go to other planets. And we got a choice. Do we terraform other planets? Which you see a lot of terraforming in my films because, it's one solution. Terraforming is a process where you take a planet like the planet Mars and you might seed greenery there and change the atmosphere so it's breathable. The other option we have is to blend ourselves with AI, merging ourselves with a machine where we can enhance our intelligence, we can live longer, and we can make better our physical bodies, because our physical bodies are pathetically weak, and they're just, they don't last. I mean, one thing that came through in this movie for me, right in the middle of the film, my father passed away, and it was a really horrible time for me because I was very close to him, and I remember sitting with him the last few weeks. He was, not doing so good, and he hadn't eaten a lot of food, and I was trying to get him to, eat again. He was a very strong sea captain and everything else, and his body was in decay, as because of, the cancer and the age and everything else, and watching him go down so quickly was pretty horrific. And it just makes you realize how fragile we are. And I mean, if we don't start modifying our bodies in some way by blending ourselves with AI, or we start genetically manipulating ourselves so that we can survive on other planets and we can survive longer than, 60, 80, 100 years, we are doomed. Because, you have this intelligence in your head and this whole life and this experience, and the experience is what makes us who we are. So if we can't allow that to live beyond 60, 80 years, it's a waste. So I think as a species, we owe it to ourselves to start modifying ourselves. And I know this is a very radical concept, but we have to. We have to do something where we can start modifying ourselves to the point where we can become greater than what we are. And this is a form of evolution, obviously, but it's self-evolution. We have to do this so that we can put ourselves in a better position for survival, and so that we can go to other planets and we can colonize other planets. And rather than mess up the ecology of the other planet by changing the atmosphere, which is a really hard thing to do, we modify ourselves so we can breathe that atmosphere. We can modify ourselves for space travel. I mean, space travel is not the healthiest thing to do. I mean, the astronauts are having all sorts of vision problems and bone problems and everything, because we're bound by gravity on this planet. We're locked to gravity. So we want to go into space. We want to colonize other planets. We either blend ourselves with robots and machines, or we genetically modify ourselves and make our bodies different and bigger and better and stronger. Imagine how our world looks today to, people in the 13th century. We have text messaging. We can FaceTime our family from across the planet and see their faces in real time. We've got cars and roads, and we can fly around the planet. But to people in the 13th century, this would be witchcraft. This would be insane to even imagine you can do this. It shouldn't be possible, yet it is possible, because science fiction was the thing, and science was the thing that pushed us towards these things. It wasn't God, it wasn't magic. It was humans saying, I'm going to take affirmative action and do something. And that's what science fiction does. It inspires the minds to do things. And that's why I'm trying to explore these things. Let's get off this planet. Let's develop spaceships. Let's develop ways of being on other worlds. Let's modify ourselves if we have to. Forget all this nonsense about being afraid of GMOs and all this crap. Anything scientific is what has pushed us ahead. And there's a fear of science, but I don't think it's a fear. It's the one thing that'll save us. So I'm completely committed to seeing humanity progress and going somewhere. That's what we explore in this movie. That's why we explore the blending of man and machine and the dangers of it. Yes, we need to examine all this stuff. We need to examine the nature of being an artificial intelligence. We need to understand the nature of being human and blending yourself with this, and we need to understand the nature of making new planets and having the courage to go to new worlds. It is a courageous thing, and it's something we have to do. But without this, we're doomed. That's my message. That's what I'm committed to. You know, I care not if I die a poor man, but I truly care about, you know, the fact that humanity will go on for, you know, 1 million years. I think this is something great, because if we are the only intelligence in this universe, if we're the only level of life that has got this level of self-awareness in this whole universe, then we owe it to the universe to do something, to permeate and to breed and to move throughout the entire universe, because without us there's no point for the universe to exist. And it's possible that we are, you know, if we are the only piece of intelligence in the universe as far as we know, then we've got to take the steps to preserve our knowledge, our intellect, and our awareness. And maybe one day, you know, we will become so great and we will become so evolved that we will become like gods. We will become like, you know, the God that we pray to in our own crazy minds of, you know, when we see a God in our heads. One day we may become that God through evolution. I did the world's first fully shot digital widescreen visual effects movie ever done in widescreen and put on 35mm. And that was, I think, 1997, Demons in My Head, which people were just giving me a lot of crap for at the time. But, you know, Rick McCallum and George Lucas were actually very supportive of the fact that I dared do a digital film. And it looked really good on 35mm, by the way.
Good, good. Right, now here's the plan. You two, you're gonna be finding parts to replace the ship. Repair the ship. Fuck. My close up.
We wanted to shoot in multiple locations. I didn't want to do any green screen. I was sort of done with the green screen after Starship Rising, Starship Apocalypse. I mean, it was really difficult to do. So I wanted to go the opposite direction and go all natural. A lot of the films from the 70s where they were using really interesting old lenses and sun flares everywhere and stuff, and it was this texture of reality, I guess. So I was actually trying to go in that direction and do a science fiction film that had the texture of the earth, had you know, real glass and real life and real locations.
I think you smell amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. I think you smell amazing.
No, you smell amazing.
You smell amazing.
Okay, we both smell amazing.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it too.
I like you.
I like you too.
The Japanese soap opera, isn't it?
What are you doing?
It's funny how the name Rogue Warrior came about. I was sending the synopsis out to my sales agent, and it was called The Robot Armageddon, I think, or Robot Apocalypse or something. But then Spielberg had that movie, so we had to change the name. And in the description it said about Sienna, the character was a rogue warrior who did blah, 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 blah. And I think my sales agent suggested Rogue Warrior was a much better name, and we thought about it. Said, yeah, it's a way better name. The Force Awakens hadn't come out or any Star Wars stuff. And then all of a sudden we heard that the next film after The Force Awakens was going to be Rogue One. And then there was a Mission Impossible Rogue something, so it's like we were stuck with that. But, you know, I just felt that there was enough differences between us and everyone else that we could be legitimately considered our own entity. We weren't trying to imitate anybody. Force Awakens comes out and they have a speeder bike, and it's like we had a speeder bike, but it was different. And then I got rid of one of the speeder bikes and made it something else, and then something else. So you're just running this constant battle of trying to be original. And the press and the media and the people on social media are absolutely brutal. These people feel they have a right to demand you do this and demand you do that. You know, my love is of real science fiction. It's not for the fans, or you're trying to please the fans, or trying to please these overly critical people, and they just come out of the woodwork, especially on my films. They attack me like it's the like they're you know, like it's some jihad thing to you know, demand that I be killed, and sometimes and death threats because they don't like my movies.
Next saved message, Tuesday, November 29th.
You listen to me, you piece of shit. I am personally coming to your house, and I am gonna blow your fucking head off. Because I've looked you up, I've done a full search, I know where you are 24 hours a day. I got a big gun, I don't care what happens to me. I'm not waiting for the cops and the FBI and the CIA and the worldwide criminal organizations, private detectives. There's over 8,000 counts of fraud on Neil Johnson of MorpheusFilm.com.
So I've become a little obsessed with doing aerial shots many years ago when I was a trainee cameraman. I was sort of working my way up to being a cameraman for television stuff. I ended up doing a lot of aerial shots in a helicopter. I think I got a couple of 100 hours flight time just shooting out of a helicopter. So I became very experienced at shooting, you know, with a big giant television camera out of, you know, helicopters as they bank around and stuff. You know, it was kind of dangerous, but you know, we did what we did. And in more recent time, obviously, you know, that people have drones, but when we started shooting the film, there weren't as many drones around. So we started doing our first sort of stuff with a helicopter, and that crashed. Not badly, but we had a bit of a small incident in the desert. It was outside of Yuma. It was just because of the wind problems in this region. It's always really windy. So then later on, we wanted to reshoot those shots with a drone, and we shot with the drone in the same area, and the power just cut out of the drone and just fell to the sand. We shot another time out there trying to get the same sort of shots, but this massive giant sandstorm kicked in, and it was really bad. I mean, you know, you see those sandstorms on movies and stuff. It was one of those sandstorms coming across the sand dunes, and we wanted the shot, so I had Sienna walking across the sand, and she had to walk with her eyes closed because she couldn't really see where she was going. And we had the drone flying past her, and I mean, when you see it, that's actually a real sandstorm. It was really insane. And then the wind got even heavier, and the drone just started flying off on its own. It got clogged with sand and just ran off somewhere. And I just started running after it, and still had control of it, kind of, at least for up and down. So I just had crashed it into the sand and found it buried in the sand. That was unfortunate, kind of wrecked that drone.
Broken leg. You got sand and everything. I just killed it for the moment.
You killed our firstborn.
Again. Not the first time.
Then there was another time we had to sort of shoot stuff over the water, and I don't exactly know what happened, but there was this big giant communications tower, and they were emitting a lot of microwaves, we presume, and the drone probably flew over the ocean, maybe too close to it, and all of a sudden just lost power. It was pretty high up, and it just fell into the ocean. So we kind of went through a lot of stuff, and it's not really for the faint-hearted, you know. It's actually really devastating when you lose camera equipment. It's got footage on board, you know. It's really quite a horrendous thing. I've had sleepless nights sort of missing it, you know, missing the drone, I guess, or one of the drones we lost. They become like children. So another time we were flying, and it just, very heavy wind around some trees, and the drone hit this kind of plant thing and just started dropping and fell into this nest in the middle of nowhere. It was actually in the mountains of Malibu, I think, in the back of Malibu. And I went in after it, and I was being stalked by either a bobcat or a mountain lion, not sure which, but something was going after me. And I was crawling through the bushes, and I got really scratched up badly, and I was covered in blood and everything. And the drone was still running, it was just sitting in the bushes going tick, tick, tick. Finally found the drone and pulled that out. I was covered in blood, and this creature thing, bobcat thing, was, you know, basically I was in his nest. So, you know, he was freaking out. I got the drone out, climbed the fence, ran. So it's kind of, these are the dangers and the perils of things, you know. We're probably very lucky that, you know, there was no serious injury, of course, but that's kind of what happens. You're out in the wilderness and things happen.